Amazing. Well, hopefully everybody can still hear me, and I can hear you now, Steve. So we're good to get started. Just lovely joys of technology. But let's go ahead and get started. And Steve, we've got some amazing data that I wanted to show you in the audience here. The brilliant team at Birdeye has been analyzing millions of data points across hundreds of thousands of businesses. I think over 150,000 businesses to understand what's working, what's not when it comes to online reputation, managing your reviews, and really what you need to do in order to succeed as a local business in 2025. And so my first question for you is, well, are online reviews still important? Do they matter to your search ranking? And has their level of importance evolved over the years?
Yeah, I think your study showed that more than anything. Look at the growth rate and some of the percentages you came up with. I mean, review volume grew by 13% in 2024, and those featuring comments went up to 81% from 79. It's kind of a no-brainer. And the biggest thing that I thought was the most interesting from the findings was the review requests jumping up 25%. And I know part of it is us business owners always want to look at what shows up when someone performs a search and making sure that we have as many, if not more, of those ratings and reviews in our competition. But I think that there's starting to become an awareness in the importance of sentiment across the web, especially when we're looking for our own business and modifier keywords like reviews and complaints and things like that, because we're seeing more of the citations from other sources other than Google. So I kind of feel like, for a while we loved Yelp, and that was the only place we would focus our energy. And now thankfully it's really focused on Google. And now I think business owners are like, okay, now I can look at other places that people are talking about us, that are seen in citations from some of these AI tools and even AI overviews. So I feel like it's not just becoming more important. I think the businesses and the employees are becoming more aware of it. I've seen more QR codes next to point of sale machines than I ever have. And I think that's fantastic. I think the more that businesses embrace getting customer feedback, the more they can improve their business, their products, their service, their customer service. And of course, the more awareness they build for those folks who are performing searches for non-branded keywords, such as ice cream shop near me or florist near me. I think the more that we pay attention to those things, the more search engines understand what we're famous for, popular for, good for, maybe not so good for, so that when someone's performing a search, we get the exact audience, the exact customer we were hoping for, and they get the exact service provider that they were hoping for.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. And I feel like what this also means is that we're doing our job. We're trying to teach people and show people the importance of these reviews and how crucial it is to have real, authentic human feedback and when it comes to the way businesses are seen online, especially with the expansion of AI generated content. That real human authenticity is important. And that also brings into question, some stuff we'll talk about further in this conversation about spam and now we're seeing, with AI, there's a lot more negative and a lot more positive. So there's a balance of both. But I do think, just seeing the spike in these reviews is a good sign. It shows that the businesses are, working harder at generating these. And I'd be curious to hear from the audience too, if this is something that you guys have been working at, maybe, within your own business in the last year or so. Has there been a bigger push from your perspective for reviews? Or, I'd be curious to hear, from the people who are, actually doing, these review generation, strategies online. Now,
yeah. Well, while you guys are doing that, by the way, real quick, one of the things we didn't talk about is some of the impact to AI. Does AI mean we don't care as much about reviews or the quality of the review, since it's kind of content heavy, or does it matter? And I think in the study you even mentioned a few times terms like top and best, and I think those are things that people are using now in those longer phrases that they're using in AI. Mm-hmm. But fundamentally, when we think about why a review or a rating online is important from an SEO standpoint, kind of stems back to the 2023 court documents that were released by Google, where they said we really pay attention to whether a search result was helpful or not, whether the user clicked on the result or not. And I can tell you, if you're looking at 3 listings in a Google Map pack, when one of them has 1 star and one of them has 3 and one of them has 5, before you even look at the number of reviews, which you'll probably do next, you're probably going to choose the 5 first. You're thinking, hey, that's probably the most helpful. Because I don't really want to go to a 1-star vendor and 3 stars kind of iffy. I really want someone who's, a better rated business. So from a click-through rate standpoint, those click-through rate signals are still important to AI. I mean, we know this because there's thumbs up and thumbs down functionality at the end of an answer. If you didn't get the answer you like, you're going to thumbs down, but you're going to thumbs up if you got what you were really looking for those people who are using that feature in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, wherever you happen to be. Use Meta AI. I love Meta AI, by the way. Meta.ai is where you go if you haven't played with it. It's phenomenal, cool image creation as well. But click-through rate as a user behavior signal is still as important, if not more important than ever, as we think about how AI is changing the ecosystem of location-based search. So I would say, if for no other reason, let's make sure that we stand out. When somebody's doing top rated and highly rated and best, those AI platforms are going to look at our ratings and our reviews, and they're going to determine whether or not we're a better answer than somebody who might have better ratings and reviews. So I think it's more important than ever when we think about, the old Google saying of things not strings, right? So I think that's really important for for businesses just to think about, is we really need to pay attention to our search appearance more now than ever.
Definitely. Yeah. And Paul here in the comment says every customer is asked for a review, which is as good as is the pure like number one tip I think I've given every single person who's ever asked me, how do you generate more reviews? It's ask every single one of your customers for a review. And we'll get into how you ask
for a review
in the
last
different
night. How embarrassing is that, right? I think if you go to, you said some really nice things about me during the office hours today. You think maybe you could share some of that same feedback on Rate My Professor for me, because it's kind of important to my reputation as a adjunct professor. And he's like, dude, I'll do that right now for you. So always ask for reviews. AAFR, right? That's our new tattoo that we keep on our wrist now to register.
It is. I mean, and it's a numbers game, right? How many people go out of their way to leave a positive review without being asked? It's just, you could provide 99% of amazing experiences, but to really, I mean, you'd have to like blow their socks off, or just give them your service completely for free in order for them to go out of their way to do a review on their own.
Or even better, when they come into the building, you ask them, hey, how can we make sure today that you have the absolute best experience?
Yeah.
And then just deliver.
Exactly. So we got some good questions here, and it's I see some referring to how you ask for reviews as well as the way you respond, and we're going to get into all of that stuff here. Next, let's talk about where people are leaving reviews. And this is interesting to me because we've heard a lot about Search GPT and Perplexity and Gemini. We're not even so much Gemini because it's part of Google, but these AI search engine platforms, and what people are starting to use those more. But what we're seeing on the review side is when people want to leave feedback of their experience for business, they still go to Google. And in fact, their share of the total number of reviews is increased by 2%. And now they're at 81.
I think in the report, the only one that they weren't doing is as well in like 80% and above. In most cases, it felt like, except for finance. It seemed like people were using Yahoo and some other platforms out there to leave reviews. But yeah, that's true. I think people are still, and I know we've got it in the chart, and we've got a cool screenshot coming up. But one thing everyone should be glad about, if you're a business owner, is that Yelp is losing its share of voice. So their little "I'll sue you if you ask for reviews" play is finally working against them. And now some of the business owners don't even care. Like I'll be at a restaurant and I'll say, hey, you didn't ask me if I was going to leave a review on Yelp. I'm like, yeah, we really don't care about Yelp, but if you can leave a review on Google, that'd be amazing. Or if it's a dinner reservation, OpenTable is important as well, to make sure if you booked it through OpenTable that you're sharing good feedback with it. So yeah, I was really happy to see that. I think that the drop was significant enough to give us hope that maybe Yelp will just eventually go away.
Well, there is still a lot of different players in the field. I know Sarah in the comments is talking about Facebook, and Facebook is a very crucial piece as well, especially with local businesses. And I think that brings into the question of, when it comes to these AI search engines, they are looking at a lot of different places when it comes to how they look at a business. Similarly with, I think we'll talk about this as well, but the non-linked brand mentions, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot more that's being called into play about your overall brand versus just one place. But even then, Google is still that home for customer feedback.
That brings a really good action item in, Justin, for everybody who's on the call. At least put 5 minutes on your calendar, at least once a month, 5 minutes to just do a search for your business with the word reviews. Do it in every search engine you imagine your customers might be using, starting with Google, then go to Bing, maybe ChatGPT, go to Perplexity, and just search for your name and reviews. I did that before the call today just to kind of see what was going on with mine. So I just did Wiideman Consulting Group reviews. And you could do the same thing to kind of see these examples, but it was like UpCity, it was Agency Spotter, it was Glassdoor, it was Indeed, right? Like our employees are talking about us too, which is really cool. So take a look at those, because those are all the data sources that are going to be important to what these AI engines are going to use when they're not just using Google anymore. Even better, do the same thing for your top competitors and see where they're showing up, because you might find some gaps and some opportunities to make sure you've got placement and visibility and a presence in the places that the competition's being mentioned. You might even steal some of their citations that might appear for a non-branded search. Oh, my camera went away for a second there. So there is that that action item of, hey, let's look at our brand at least once a month with the word reviews after it. Maybe complaints. Don't do that too often, because we don't want search autocomplete to show complaints. But every so often, just take a look and see what's showing up. Look at the first 2 to 3 pages worth of results, and then do the same for the competition. Because I think you'll find a lot of opportunity, and you'll learn a lot about your business and what your employees and your customers are saying about you.
Yeah. And I see we've got a couple of questions from Steve as well. Steve in the chat, not Steve here, but we got a question from Steve. It's, am I violating the rules if I incentivize customers to leave a review, like a monthly drawing or a discount on a next purchase?
I'd be careful with that. I think competition gets brutal in some industries, and they'll put you on blast for trying to buy reviews or fake reviews. I think there are some really creative ways. I know we're going to talk about a little bit more in a bit around how many times it takes to get a customer to leave a review with all the SMS and emails and everything that we're sending out to them. I think you can use a lot of creativity. And, when I mentioned on a few of the past webinars is, like perhaps an IHOP employee has a button that says I smile for reviews, since their logo has a smile in it. Little cues and things like that can make a difference. At point of sale, of course, there's that opportunity to have that QR code. Hey, while I'm ringing you up, would you mind pulling up the QR code that's here? And then that QR code gives them some options of where to go to look for reviews, to leave reviews, and divvying that up, making sure that the programming behind it, the logic rotates, so it's not just Google every single time. Maybe have it Google 50-60% of the time, and then rotate in other places that people can share feedback, so that we're expanding a little bit more than just Google. But yeah, I think getting creative is probably the most important thing that will help you to get those reviews, as opposed to just emailing them over and over and over and SMSing them over and over and over again. I think there's some cool things that you can do, and I've got some neat ideas, if time permits, that we'll get to.
Definitely. So
great question.
Yeah, that was a great question. And I've seen people, and I think a safer bet would be to incentivize the employees to generate reviews from their customers at their location versus incentivizing the customers to leave a review.
Our local Outback does that. They have an internal competition over there. It's kind of cool.
Awesome. So let's keep going. And so this next slide, we're talking, we have a little bit more on Yelp's organic traffic trend, but I think we covered that well. Now, this is something that's interesting, and this related to a question of, of how do you request? And you've talked about those in-person requests are super impactful. And I think if you can combine that with an electronic request, whether it be through text or email, that is the winning combo. Because at least if you ask them in person, just naturally, just because of the way the human brain works, they're going to start thinking about what that review would be if they were to leave it. And so they're kind of writing that review in their head. And then when you can follow that with the text or an email, it kind of makes that process a little bit easier for them, because they've already got the review in their mind. But in terms of how and what channels are the most effective, between email and SMS, we've seen some really interesting things. Most notably, the click-through rates for SMS or texting has declined from 8% to 6% in 2024. What do you think that is due to?
I think it's a lot of clutter. I think we get so many text messages. I signed up for a discount the other day from a social media ad on something that looked really yummy. I'm like, oh, I gotta try those. But to get the discount, I have to get an SMS. So I get so many SMSs now that I'm finally at a point in my life that I'm not opening every single SMS. Which is weird for me because, as you know, back when SMS became, like the number one marketing tactic was to get on their phone because the open rate was almost like 100%. Everybody opens a text message. Some people don't even look at email. One of my kids barely even knows what email is, right? It's like, it's all about social messaging and Messenger and maybe some text messages. So yeah, I agree. I think that's the number one thing that we have to think about and why it went down. The other was, you'd mentioned earlier about the AI spam that was happening, and in the report you noticed that as well. I think it was in the millions, 19 million or something like that, or 19 billion. There's some crazy number of automated SMS messages going out. I mean, I got 2 yesterday. It just had the word hi in it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Yep. So I'm like, bye, and block. So there's a lot of that garbage that comes with text messaging, where it's not as much of a priority as it was when phones were still, kind of a hype, some 10, 15 years ago. Now it's part of our daily lives and is becoming a little bit like email, and we're becoming numb to things that aren't important. If it's not a person I know, this is somebody who said this morning, if it's not a person I know, I don't even look at it. So, there's that. So I think in response, how do we fix that? How do we get through the noise, as it's worded in the study that you did? And I think humor and wordsmithing are an important part of that. I think if we can get really creative, right, we can do better than our competition with less follow-ups and more creativity. So humor and wordsmithing and responses is fun. It's lighthearted, sometimes even shareable, where you might see a response in a screenshot shared on Facebook or Instagram. I like to see responses that drive customers back in. I'm sure you would too, as a business owner. I can't remember where I saw it, but I know there was a response. It was something like, "We want to see you again. I've added your name to our VIP list for January. Please enjoy 10% off with code I'm a VIP and a valid ID. Thanks again for the love." And I was like, that's pretty cool. So now not only am I, interested in leaving a review and sharing some feedback, but I got a personalized message, a discount to come back into the store, and I feel like a VIP. House of Blues does that. I go to a lot of concerts at the House of Blues, and their VIP folks email me like all the time with discounts and clubs and club events and private events that I could go to. And I'm not even signed up as a VIP. They're just, again, trying to share the love and go to concerts. So yeah, I think you get really creative. I saw one restaurant that had a little jar, and you put a coin in one of the jars, and the employee's job was to notice which jar you put it in. I had a good experience. I had a bad experience. And if you had a good experience, the person, who was your server or whomever would say, "Hey, thanks so much for that. And by the way, if you did have a good experience, it would be super rad if you left us a review. Here's a QR code." Right? And so yeah, I think you can get really fun and creative and goofy around it, and people understand. They're not going to think negatively of you. They get it. They get how important reviews are, because that's the first thing they're looking for when they do a search. Yeah. And now in GPT and so forth, they're looking for best, highly rated. They're using those kind of keyword modifiers in their search.
Yeah. So there's some really interesting conversations in the chat going right now, talking about. So actually, first off, John, I don't think we have the age demographic broken out for the engagement rates for these numbers. But one of the things that I'm seeing right now is there are some questions about getting reviews taken down, as well as how to best respond. And we're going to get more into responding, the timing of response, and how you best should respond to kind of help, minimize the impact of a negative review. So I just wanted to let everybody know we see those questions. But one of the things that I see as well is from Rebecca, and she says that our SMS engagement became most successful when we told the customer, "We will text you a review link." And I think that just goes back to combining those two methods, put it in their mind, getting that in-person
expectations.
experience of like, hey, I'm the person that helped you with this experience. I would really, appreciate if you left us a review. It'd help me a lot. And that just, and people, like you said, people get it. People get it.
Man, imagine if the text said, instead of how did we do, how did I do?
Yeah.
So if there's those moments where you can make it where you attribute the transaction to a specific server, and it comes with the server's name saying, hey, how did I do today? I think that might be something to test. I've never done it, but it sounds like a really interesting idea.
Definitely. Well, I get those kinds of text messages from the place I get my haircut. So when I get a review request afterwards, it's how did, Jennifer do, and it's like, it's more personal. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not just reviewing the haircut business. I'm reviewing the person who cut my hair, and she was great. Right. So I want to, share that experience. And so
those people who don't purge their text messages, you can just do a search for leave us a review, and I'll bet you'll find like thousands of them, and most of which you probably never opened. But if it was, like you said, Justin, the how did Jessica do, that's a huge difference.
Yep. But I think the very core foundation of it all is that you have to request. You cannot just expect good reviews to come in without you initiating some sort of, prompt for it. Yeah. So moving forward, this is also just goes right back into what we were talking about with responses, but also the importance of personalized engagement. And so what we're seeing here is we've seen the response rate from businesses has gone way up, especially since 2021. And this is an amazing thing to see. So the response rate's gone up from 63% to 73% over 2024. And also when we say 2024, the reason why is because we wanted to wait till after the year finished to get all of the data from that year, and then we go through. But a lot of this stuff is still like relevant to today. It's just a matter of when the data is. So just in case anybody was seeing that. So Steve, when it comes to responses, and let's just kind of dig into this side of it, because we've got a lot of comments about how to respond, when to respond, and how to manage negative reviews. And so when it comes to what you're, based on what you're seeing here, what do you think?
Somebody mentioned in the comments that they ask for a review 90 days after they purchase a product. I think there's an opportunity at point of sale where you can get them to leave a review about the transaction, less about the product. So I think there's a way that immediately you can get a review, and then in 90 days you go back and say, how do you like our product? So you've got two opportunities there. I think for personal injury attorneys, some that that we've worked with in the past, we don't just ask for reviews from clients that we've closed cases with. Instead, we ask if we took a phone call and helped somebody who called, whether they became a client or not, with the answers they needed, and whether they had a case or not, or who else they should call, or referred to somebody else. Every opportunity to help somebody is an opportunity to get a review. So I think there's where there's where the creativity.
Steve, I apologize for interrupting, but my call just ended. I live next to an airport, and sometimes the call just cuts, so you might have to. Oh, now I got your voicemail.
Oh, go for it. Hit it again.
One more time. Sorry, guys.
I'll record your number this time too, so I know how to find you.
We've come so far in technology. We still have so far to go, it seems.
No worries.
Okay.
Great. So that's the thinking there is let's try to be creative with it, and every interaction with a customer is an opportunity to ask for a rating. Even at that given moment. And I've had moments where some of the franchises that we work with have asked, like, hey, we have an opportunity to stage some responses, some automatic responses when somebody leaves a rating but doesn't leave an actual written review. So we'll help write some 40 to 60 different responses that are like, hey, thanks for the amazing review. And if we don't know if it's 4 or 5, we just make sure that we don't specify that in our examples, otherwise we look really weird. But coming up with some of those immediate responses where we can add some humor to it, and wordsmith in something with our products. For IHOP, it could be thanks for flipping over to IHOP for breakfast or whatever. We appreciate the great feedback, and I'm glad we could stack up to your expectations. Just getting really creative and fun with some of those responses for those that haven't left an actual written review, and those who have, just making sure we've assigned some resources to put manual feedback into each of those reviews so that people feel loved and appreciated. And if we're smart, giving them some connective way to to get a discount coming in. Again, with the example, bring a valid ID. You're in the system as a special VIP customer, and you're going to get 10% off the next month just because you left us a great review and we appreciate you. Then they're going to come back in, have another great experience, and leave another review somewhere else because, again, you've connected their name to the system where they're leaving reviews and maybe your loyalty program, and the system automatically knows not to send them back to the same place. Now you're sending them somewhere else. So I think there's ways that you can get a client to leave you 10 reviews over the course of a year after 10 different visits, depending on what the business is. Where not only are you getting a lot of great feedback for the AI outside of just Google alone, but you're also building more brand loyalty and maybe even some social followers, so that you're building your audience, so that you're creating more promos and offers and things. It's front and center because they're a customer and they visit frequently. Well, because of the work that you did in bringing them back after that first visit. So I think there's a lot of really cool, creative things you can do. And if you just can't think about it, you're right-minded and you're thinking about logic and math and accounting and finance and numbers, and you don't want to deal with all the creative stuff, put that in ChatGPT. I'm looking for 10 really creative ideas to help me to leave some fantastic review responses that might drive customers back to our restaurant, to our flower shop, to our service. I think there's some really cool prompts that you can come up with. And if you can't think of a prompt, ask for a prompt. I need a really strong prompt to help me to get better rating and review responses. Give me some ideas, and then take the collective of everything that you've gotten between all those different AI tools that you use, and ask for one central document from all of them that's combined with all those different ideas. And then you'll have some pretty interesting things to look at and discuss with the team. Redline anything that's off brand, redline anything the legal team's going to destroy you for. And then you've got your best practice list and your SOP for how you do really strong review responses for folks that aren't necessarily as creative as others.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that Birdeye does really well with our AI responses as well, especially when you have a lot of different locations, for example, and let's say you do get a lot of reviews, trying to personally respond to every single one in some in a full drawn out way is time consuming. But that's what AI is there for, to help you scale that, and you can still make sure that you can read through everything, make sure every response is personalized, and you add that human touch. But just the sheer act of having it give you that first draft and then you go through, it will make things a lot easier.
100%.
And so what about on the, actually, before we go into the negative review response side of it, I wanted to get your thoughts on, the data that we're seeing is these responses are increasing. So businesses are responding to reviews more than ever. That is, in my mind, going to become a standard expectation that every customer has moving forward. When they leave a review, they expect to have a response, whether it's a positive or a negative. And so leaving a review completely unresponded to, whether it's a 5-star and you just have to simply say, thank you, we're glad you enjoyed it, or a negative review. And, the gut instinct that a lot of people have when they see a negative review is to not respond, but ignore it. Like, I don't want to give any more light to it at all. But that's really not quite the best case, or the best practice. What would your advice be for handling those negative reviews?
That's a great question. And we see this a lot. I unlike a lot of business owners, I hope to see some negative reviews sometimes, because that helps me grow as a business and as a business owner. It helps identify gaps that we can fill in to improve the quality of service we deliver. So the first thing I send to anybody who leaves any kind of a negative review, which hasn't happened to me personally, but with some of our clients, is thank them. Hey, thank you so much. This feedback helps us get better and it helps us grow. And we're absolutely going to investigate this. And in fact, I did one with a negative review for the concert venue I went to last week to see AC/DC. And I actually got a phone call from somebody that actually called me up and like, hey, we saw your review and we just want to talk to you about it. And this is really helpful. Can you give me more context? And, I want more information about this because this is really going to help us. And I'm going to make sure it's shared with all the different teams, the security teams and the vendor teams. I'm like, wow, this person really cares. I can almost not get them off the phone. They're just that interested in my feedback. So I thought it was fantastic, and it did give me the sense that I want to come back. And when I come back and I have a better experience, I'm going to change my review. And it might take 6 months to a year, and that negative review might sit out there for 6 months to a year. And that's okay, because in 6 months to a year, it's going to change and everything's going to get better. And I'm not going to have those same reviews because I fixed the problem at its core. So I think the negative review, the idea of negative reviews is a positive thing to help us to improve the quality of service and the things that we offer. Obviously, there's going to be those anomalies where you just got a really weird person who does a really weird thing, and then you simply request for it to be removed, or it doesn't represent your business right. And you just have to deal with those as they come if you can't get them removed. On the response side of things, though, for sure, we want to make sure we're thanking them. We're apologizing they had a horrible experience. We want to make it better. Call this number, let's bring you back and see what we can do. And then when they call the number, say, we want to give you another chance. Please go back into this location. We've already spoken with them. Here's a promo code to replace whatever it is that you paid for last time, or meal, or whatever it happens to be. And then let us know how we did after that service. And you might actually see the person change the review within a week, depending on whether they decide to come back or not, or if they had that bad of an experience. So I think responding is critical, and the faster you respond, the more that business is paying attention. And I know this sucks for business owners, because I'm trying to run a business. I'm not going to be looking at Google all day. Well, you kind of have to have it at the ready. So once an hour, just check over there and look for any kind of emails that came in from Google telling you how to review. Once or twice a day, look over your latest Google reviews. It only takes a few seconds. And sort by lowest, find that one that was that negative one, respond to it right away, and then work your way down to the positives. But every day, that's part of our job now. We have to leave reviews. Otherwise, we're not going to be found online. And if we are found online, they're not going to click us, because we don't have the same level of quality of and quantity of reviews that our competitors have. So,
yeah, we've got a kind of a question from Erin. She in there saying, as a residential treatment, it's hard to respond to negative reviews when they're left by teenagers who really didn't want to be in treatment to begin with. So they have a negative outlook on their experience. How can we deal with those kinds of reviews?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think if we know that they're going to leave a negative review when they leave, we've got a feeling, hey, this kid was not happy. I think if we can get them to leave a review through our internal customer service, where they think they're talking to a manager or someone else first, in a lot of cases, they're not going to want to do it twice, right? They're going to leave a review somewhere. If it's on our site and through our customer service, that's even better than risking them leaving and going somewhere else. So I would say, we used to have this idea of a care card and a share card. And if we knew somebody had a poor experience, like, look, I'm not sure how your experience was today, but I can tell by your expression that you might have had some concerns. That's important to me, and it's important that we get this feedback. Here's a care card. It's got a QR code on it, and a webpage you can go to. We really want to hear how we could do better and what we could do, and we want to improve. That's not going to stop them from leaving a negative review, but it's going to definitely reduce the number who are. That's a starting point. The other thing is, again, finding some way, somehow, to make sure when they leave that they're happy with some part of what we do, so that they feel guilty saying something negative about another part that we do. So customer service is probably going to be key there. Some really cool, fun, engaging, humorous, lighthearted thing that we do that gets them laughing, gets them happy. I think there's things that we can do there. Other things, is go see what the competition's doing. One of the tricks that I used to do is, because I have a class I teach, is I'll ask anyone if they want to do some intern work and do a little bit of investigative marketing for us. And so they'll go in, as college students learning about an industry, and ask the competition everything and anything we'd want to know behind the scenes. How do they handle reviews? What do they do? And what's their process like? And some of these businesses love to help students. So you get a lot of really cool insights from your student spy who goes in and does a little bit of that investigative work. And then you take a lot of those different ideas and test them to see what works for you.
Yeah. And I think Sarah had a great point in the chat. It's a lot about how you respond, especially if you're somebody like me. You probably look at the bad reviews of a business, like you sort it by lowest first, just to see, okay, at worst, what can I expect? Yeah. And when I see that, and I see the businesses responding, and if they really do authentically respond and they're trying to solve the problem, even if they were in the wrong, or if they weren't in the wrong and it was clearly the person, the reviewer, who was in the wrong in that situation, when that business can provide their context and their side of the story in a, like, mature, calm,
Yeah.
solution oriented approach, it completely changes my mind. It's like, okay, well, that person was just having a bad day or whatever,
Right.
and a negative review or two actually makes me feel more confident in the rating that I'm seeing of that business. If I see only 5-star reviews and that's it, sometimes a red flag will go up. Be like,
Mhm.
really? They're perfect every single time, all
Yeah.
the time? Like, come on, we're human.
Yeah.
And
Not real.
so
Exactly.
that kind of stuff, like those negative reviews can definitely be an asset. So we got a lot more data to cover here. So let's keep going. So we're talking about trends in review volume growth. Now, the total volume of reviews grew by 13%, but some industries like the home services seeing even higher growth. It's the largest uptick in total reviews that we've seen year over year since 2021. What do you
Mhm.
think is driving the surge of reviews, and how can businesses in these high growth sectors capitalize on this?
This is an easy one. I mean, employees are being pushed for reviews more than ever. I mentioned the Outback example, where it's like, well, we're doing competition here to see who can get their name mentioned the most times in positive reviews. I met with a moving company just a week ago who not only has the team members ask for reviews from people they did the moving with, but they ask them to post photos as well. And so they'll be like, hey, could you post a photo and we'll stand over here and next to your boxes in your truck and give you a thumbs up. So they're posting images and the pictures are, if they're doing it right, the customer's far enough back that you can actually see an item that Google's image recognition API could pick up, a moving truck, for example, moving boxes, for example. So not only are we getting the win by getting a great positive review and some cool photos to make sure Google knows that we're real and there's new things being published on our profile, but it can recognize the images that are in that picture to semantically help us appear more often in searches. So it's kind of a double win. But I do agree. I think every business now just knows, I can't be in business unless I am asking every single customer to leave a review, and I can't succeed with what I'm doing with my digital marketing if I'm not responding to every single one of them. So and I think customers, inherently know, that reviews are important to a business. And if I had a bad review, then I'm going to let everybody know, or a bad experience, I'm going to let everybody know. And if I had a good experience, I definitely want everyone to, to hear about it because they should come to this place. It was great. So it's more prominent, it's more prevalent. I think people understand the value of it and what it does for their business or to other businesses. And that's just going to continue to grow, especially as we're looking at the citation sources or the sources of what AI is giving us. And AI is going to give us all these answers, and we're going to see on the right hand side or underneath it sources, and we're going to see all of that different content, that spans from different ratings and reviews and blogs and things where people are talking about our business. So yeah, I only imagine it's going to continue to grow.
Definitely. So let's keep moving. Unfortunately, my tech issues have caused us to fall a little behind. So I
No
want to
worries.
try to make sure we can get through these. Now, I wanted to touch on this real quickly of navigating review fatigue. So something that we've been seeing in our data is that it takes 9% more touch points or touches
Mm-hmm.
to get that review left, I guess is what,
Yep.
not responded to.
I
Is a good
saw
response.
the number at like 17 in the report. And I'm like, wow, it takes 17 times in some cases to get somebody to actually leave a review. That's crazy. But yeah, I think creativity, like I mentioned earlier, wins over beating a dead horse. You can send 17 of the same messages, and what's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So an example might be, hey, this is Jesse from the dental office. Did you forget something? As a text message, and it's like a guaranteed open rate thing. Like, oh my God, did I forget something? I don't think so. I don't think so. And Jesse replies back, yes, you forgot to show us your love with a rating. Here's the link. We appreciate you. You can get really creative in how you're interacting and setting up some of those, those different, I don't want to call them bots, but different sequences of how you're responding to folks to get them to leave a review. So, and again, you can generate some of these by going to ChatGPT or Meta AI or any of them to come up with ideas. I'm here too. If you want to throw some by me, you could always, look me up or, contact me. I'll definitely give you some feedback. But yeah, I think the fatigue part of it's, you got to be interesting or they're just not going to click or
Yeah.
open.
Yeah. Especially as we've seen the number of like people, businesses are prioritizing this. So the competition for not only just to get your customers to look at your email is higher,
Mhm.
but getting them to actually leave the review is going to be a little bit tougher, just because we're all getting bombarded with so many just messages
Yeah.
all the time now. So getting creative on how you can capture that attention is super, super important. Now,
For sure.
let's talk more into the SEO strategy side and how your review process can fit into that. So when it comes to your ranking, and I've seen some people talk about how responding too late or not responding at all, or the different SEO factors of reviews. Can we get a little bit deeper on what exactly is the impact of reviews on your search ranking? How
Mhm.
exactly does it apply to these AI search engines like Perplexity? And we touched on it earlier, but I'm just kind of curious if there's any more detail on
Of course.
what it takes.
Well, we mentioned the top and best a few times as being an important part of why we need reviews, because if we are the top and the best based on those reviews, we're going to be shown more often and likely more higher in the search results. But metrics are important. We said, hey, your action item is 5 minutes a month looking at your brand and the word reviews. Maybe put another 10 minutes a month. So 15 minutes out of your entire month of the 160 hours you're working, put 15 minutes into doing some basic reporting. When we do a local SEO audit, one of the tables that we have includes us and the competition, and it's got the quantity, quality, and velocity of reviews and ratings that we're getting. Those are important. We want to know: are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Did we go to an average of a 4.8 down to a 4.4? And did our competition? What's going on with us versus the competition? So I think that's really important to record that once a month, just so that you, from a review standpoint, are paying attention to it. But our reporting, as it pertains to local SEO holistically, starts with our business data and accuracy to make sure that everything is where it needs to be in terms of our name, address, phone number across all the different profiles and so forth that we have in Google and Apple and Yelp and all the different databases like Data Axle and so forth. Those are all really important to make sure that we're accurate and people aren't getting wrong directions, because that's a real easy way to get a bad review. I've done that, or I've gone to the wrong location, or the hours were wrong, and I drive 20
That's the
minutes and
worst.
place is closed. And then I also measure Google Map and 3-pack performance. So Google Maps gives you some insights, and your own keyword tools can help you measure kind of how you're performing, both in the maps organic, and there's a ton of keyword tools you can explore to track that with. The biggest ones, as you probably already know, are SEMrush and Ahrefs and some others. Google Web Search landing page performance. Take a look at your location page, particularly if you have more than one location, to make sure that it's as helpful or more helpful than the competition. One of the links right at the top of our website on Wiideman is our local search study that we did that breaks down and gives you a diagram of what a local landing page should look like and what the components are, if you want to explore that and compare it to your own. Then, of course, it's reputation, probably the most important factor, because no matter how accurate our business data is, no matter how much we're paying attention to the insights in Google Maps, and improving our landing pages, if we only have 3 stars and our competition has 4 or 5, we're not going to get the click, and eventually Google is going to infer that we weren't very helpful, and eventually we fade away and go to the graveyard of Google on page 2. So I think when you look at those 4 aspects of your local business strategy, reviews should be the most important, but data accuracy, it's your data visibility online. Of course, that includes all your Google business profiles, which I think is going to be on the next webinar, and then your landing page performance, and then reputation. All 4 of those areas are important, but if I had to choose one to pay the most attention to, it's going to be reputation, for sure.
Yeah, I agree, because I think if you focus on reputation and you build that up, the others will follow.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what we see moving forward in terms of the future, right? So what are your predictions for the remainder of 2025 in terms of consumer behavior and how they are going to be searching for businesses,
Sure.
as well as the impact of AI, and as AI and AI agents kind of come into the fold, where do you see things headed?
I'm a bit of a nerd, and a lot of my vision of where we're going to go aligns with some science fiction that we saw. Like someone doing a flip phone and saying beam me up, and then 20 years later we've got cell phones. The way that I'm looking at it, and the way I see, especially in those movies that go through this, like Joaquin Phoenix is in a movie called Her, right? That basically he's got this virtual assistant and he falls in love with this virtual assistant. But the virtual assistant is literally what we're evolving to at this point with regards to being able to be hands free. So we're getting closer to that more than ever. I know 10 years ago it was, oh, well, we got Google Assistant and Google Action Console and Alexa Skills, but there wasn't a lot of adoption, and the developers who were working on it couldn't communicate to the marketing teams on how to educate our customers to how to use it. So it just kind of scaled back, and we stopped building actions in console. We stopped doing things with Alexa and some of the technologies around voice search, but we learned a lot from that. And now we're seeing Meta glasses, and I got a pair at the G50. I think you've got a pair, Justin. So
Yeah.
People are starting to use more of these wearables and think a little bit more hands-free, and we don't want to have to touch our phone to do something. The more we can do using our voice assistant, the more it can log in for us, the more it can act on our behalf and do things, the more we're going to help our clients have a seamless experience regardless of what device they're using. And I hope at some point, and I know the folks over at Amazon talked about this in Vegas at a Vegas conference some 6 years ago, is that they envision one day people are going to untether themselves from their phones and they're going to be using wearable smart devices that allow us to interact with the web. So here's an example. A Meta, leave a review for Dr. White's Dentistry in Anaheim. Okay, sure. Where would you like to leave your review? Where would you, and what would you like to say? And what would you like some ideas of what you could give for a review? Would you like the review to be video or text? Would you like me to share that review anywhere else? For example, I found dentistry.com and healthgrades.com. So my thinking is, as we're looking at the future and how we're getting smarter, and we've got all these pieces everywhere of things, as they start to come together, and AI is like, hey, let me automate all this for you. Let's leave that review for you. I'm already logged into your Google account. Does this sound correct? I'll read it back to you, right? And we're hopefully going to get to that place where it's going to say, hey, do you want to share this in all the places that matter? Oh, I noticed you don't have a HealthGrades account. Would you like me to register one for you? Which email would you like me to use? That we could get to a bulk syndication point of our reviews, which enable the AI tools to have a wider array of sources to choose from, to use a little bit of that to kind of fact check some of the comments and feedback against what they have in their database, and could get us to a place where we're not so reliant on Google alone, but instead we're using our assistant now to to spread the word where it matters the most online, and not just in a web search that seems to be going away as we look at all these other ways that we're finding information. So yeah, I think the future is we need to plan our business around voice. If we can get a customer to get what they need without touching their mobile device or picking up the phone to call somebody, then we win. In 5 years from now, when the competition is still trying to figure it out, we've been playing with it, over the course of years, and we've managed to do something no one's ever done and create a seamless experience for a customer without having to do a lot of taps and touches and scrolls and swipes and so forth.
Yeah. And I think that's important because in my mind, when I use the Meta glasses, or when I'm talking over with the advanced voice with ChatGPT, I know that the technology is there. I can talk to it like a human. I can have it look at the thing I'm looking at. The thing that's the bottleneck is just making it work together, which is where the agents come in. Having your Meta be able to leave a review on Google, those connections, that's that next step of taking action on these other platforms and these other apps and things. And I don't think we're very far away, because the technology to do it is already here. It's just a matter of navigating through the red tape of, okay, well, can this app have permissions from this app? But it's moving quickly, and things are going to, that's why this rise of agents is near. We're going to see more of that stuff. I'm excited at Birdeye because we're doing a lot of amazing work to prepare businesses for that, but also not so much where they have to be where you're constantly reacting to these AI changes, but you can also leverage it for your own use cases as well. And so, that's what is really cool about what we have going on right now is when it comes to your entire online reputation, we have implemented AI into every piece of it, but in a smart way. So when it comes to responding to reviews, you have human-like responses, but we still want you to have that human oversight, because everybody knows that. You can go to any business that uses this bot responses and you could see it, and it's a bot response. is adding that nuance and that human like touch to it. And it's the same thing across social media. So even if you have 1,000 locations, you can use AI to help create great posts for each of those locations that's unique to each of them. And you can have it, you can soon you'll be able to customize it really well to your own brand voice to where it's indiscernible between you and what your AI is writing. And what's really cool, especially on the AI with Birdeye, with what we have going on right now, and if you're a current customer, would love to hear your feedback on competitors' AI and Insights AI, because the data side, the behind the scenes stuff, is also where a lot of magic happens. So with competitors' AI, for example, you can keep track, you can automatically identify and track all of your competitors' social media, their reviews, the sentiment of those customers leaving reviews for your competitors. Like, oh, well, what are the people saying that John and Mike's burger joint down the street does better than us? Or, you can ask it these questions. Like, it's remarkable. Like, the amount of information that you have at your disposal is insane. And it's digestible. It's not just, okay, here's 50,000 spreadsheets that you can export and then you can figure out how to make it work. But it actually gives you smart suggestions and insights on that. So like, I want to bring up this tool real quick for the screenshot, but here you have smart insights. And so it analyzes the sentiment of you versus your competitors and says like, hey, this is where you're weak. This is where you're strong. This is where your competitors are strong. And it gives you real-time insights. Like if you were to ask me, hey, Justin, can you go identify every customer or every competitor in our market and identify their strengths, weaknesses, our opportunities to be better than them, and any other information that might be helpful. But you need to do it for not just our market here in Austin. We've got 50 locations. So go and just do that for all of us. And I would say, okay, I'll be back next month because I'm not going to be able to pull that myself. And that's what's really cool about Birdeye Competitors AI. And it's going to get better. I wish I could talk more about what we got coming, but we've got some really cool stuff coming. And I think in the next webinar next month, we'll be able to talk about it. So be sure to follow us and stay tuned for that. It's going to be a really good one.
You're not going to be AI next time, right, Justin? We're still going to have you as a person. You're not going to be like the
soon.
AI video.
I think by the end of the year, I'll be able to at least have I can have a co-host like Justin 2.0 that I can, like if you get sick and you're not able to make it, I can just call up Justin 2.0. I've been playing around with it. I've been trying to see if I can make it an AI twin for something like that.
It's so fun.
I know we're nearing the end of, and we have reached the end of today's conversation. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I'm sorry for all of the tech issues. Hopefully it wasn't too bad and you guys were able to stick around for it. But don't forget, we have the recording coming to you guys around this time tomorrow. Follow us on LinkedIn. Be sure to go and check out Birdeye's capabilities with the AI stuff that we've got coming up right now. It's phenomenal. And if you talk with one of our people, they will actually give you a personalized demo where they'll put your business in the system and it'll show you exactly how it would work for you. It's pretty insane. So definitely check that out. You can click the schedule a call button at the top, but also don't forget to check out Steve and Wiideman Consulting. They're the best in the business, plain and simple. I mean, Steve, thank you so much. It's been, this might have been the most stressful one at the beginning for me that we've done in terms of webinars, but I got through it. I think we got through it just fine.
It was my pleasure. And thank you guys all for hanging out and had some really great questions. And I thought this was really fun. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you guys. All right.